Tuesday mornings got no respect. They just show up like a bill you forgot was due, and you deal with them whether you want to or not. I was lacing my boots when Laurel hollered down from upstairs, voice floating through the vents like perfume you can't afford. "Cello, move my car out the driveway, keys on the counter." That's me, the Marcellus Tate. Folks call me Cello. 36 years old, been fixing air conditioners long enough to know people only remember your name when the heat's unbearable. I don't snoop, don't pry, don't check pockets or phones. I fix what's broken, come home, mind my TV. That's my creed. But that Tuesday morning, that creed got tested. I grabbed her keys, still warm from her hand, and stepped outside. The air was heavy, like it hadn't decided if it wanted to rain or just sweat. Her sedan sat behind my truck, polished from the weekend wash I gave it. I slid in, the door thunk soft, seatbelt scraping, key fob chirping like a cheap bird. Just another morning chore. Until I saw it. At first, it was just a flicker of colour, tucked between the passenger seat and the console where loose change goes to die. Purple. Loud purple. Paul. Not the kind on Easter dresses or church hats. This was different. I leaned over, tugged it free, and the world went quiet. My stomach dropped, but not with anger. No yelling rose in me, no urge to sash windows, just a cold clarity sliding through my chest. Like when an AC unit kicks in after days of heat. Affine! And that first blast of cold air tells you ain't crazy. Relief exists. It was a toy. Adult, obvious, bright as a flare. And it damn sure wasn't from our bedroom. My fingers shook holding it, not from rage, but because every puzzle piece I'd been ignoring finally clicked into place. Laurel's late nights at the office, the new lingerie receipts crumpled in her purse, things I never saw her wear for me. The way she'd started calling me Marcel instead of Cello, dragging my name through her teeth like it tasted spoiled, and those hotel charges at the downtown Marriott that I told myself must have been real conferences. Suddenly none of it was random. It was a system, not a scene. I dropped the toy back in its hiding place like it burned, slid the gear shift and parked her car on the street. My hand still smelled faintly like rubber and betrayal. Inside, the kitchen hummed with the normal sounds of life. Fridge kicking on, coffee pot sighing, but everything around me felt staged, like the set of a play I hadn't known I was starring in. I opened a cabinet, reached past the canned beans and hot sauce packets from Popeyes, and my hand found glass. Small bottle, dark red liquid inside that could blister grown men on wing night. Ghost pepper oil. I'd bought it as a joke once, dared my buddies to dip their fries. Nobody asked twice. I held it up against the kitchen light, liquid glowing mean, and I thought, calm as ever. I don't snoop, I don't pry, but this ain't something you ignore. I twisted the cap just enough to smell the fire. Tuesday had finally clicked. I stood there in the kitchen, that little glass bottle heavy in my hand like it knew exactly what part it was about to play. My reflection bent in the curve of it, warped and red, like the devil himself was peeking back at me. I wasn't mad, not the way folks expect. No screaming, no smashing plates, no pacing the floor. My head felt cool, clear, like a chessboard where I finally saw every piece lined up. "Keep it cool, Cello," I whispered to myself, and I meant it. I pulled open the junk drawer, the one with rubber bands, a half-dead flashlight and a pair of nitrile gloves I'd swiped from a job site, slid them on with a snap. The bottle hissed soft when I twisted the cap. That cruel little shh of something that don't need to be disturbed. The air instantly spiced up, biting my nose like it wanted to fight. I poured just enough to coat. Slow, steady, like marinating ribs before a cookout. Except this cookout was going to burn someone's soul. I worked the oil into the purple rubber, rolling it in my gloved hands until the shine turned slick and mean. The smell alone could bring a grown man to tears. I put it back exactly where I found it, seat seam hugging it close like nothing had changed at all. Next move, props. I grabbed a glass, filled it with the ice, let water run till it hissed cold, set it on the entryway table where I could grab it in one motion, pushed the front door halfway open like I'd just stepped out for air, stage set, curtain waiting. In my head I could already hear her heels. Laurel's heels had become a countdown clock in our house. Each click on the tile a second shaved off my patience. I imagined them coming down the stairs, click, 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 sharp as a metronome, each one marking time till the show started. I leaned against the counter, gloves off, bottle tucked back in the cabinet. My phone buzzed where it lay face down. Screen lit up. Text banner flashed across, bright as a neon sign. DC, on my way. At the same second, through the quiet block, I caught the low growl of a car turning down our street. Too smooth, too expensive to be a neighbour's. And just like that, my little plan wasn't theory anymore. It was in motion. The motor's roar drawing closer, the phone glowing with that message. Next beat, showtime. The sound hit before the car even stopped. A scream, high and jagged, ripping through the quiet street like somebody had set fire to the morning itself. Tyres scraped against the curb, door flew open, and Laurel tumbled halfway out before clapping both hands between her thighs and hollering like her soul was leaving. "Water! Water!" she shrieked, voice cracking. On the passenger side, corporate king himself, Derek Cole, stumbled into the daylight, suit jacket twisted, face red as a stop sign. He was hopping from one foot to the other like the asphalt was lava, groaning something that might have been English, clutching himself like his world had gone nuclear. By the time I stepped onto the porch with the glass of ice water in my hand, Miss Petway's blinds had already snapped open. She stayed nosy ready, that woman. 10 seconds later, her head was poking out the window, scarf tied tight, eyes big as gossip. And once she showed up, you know the rest of the block followed. Curtains twitching, doors cracking open, whispers running like current through a wet wire. Laurel saw me and lunged, grabbing at the glass in my hand. She poured it straight down the front of her black dress, soaking herself like she was trying to baptize away the flames. Derek wheezed beside her, pointing toward me with tears cutting tracks down his cheeks. "Hospital!" he croaked, voice shredded. "Ambulance!" Laurel screamed, stomping one heel so hard it snapped clean off. She lost her balance and went down on the driveway, wailing like she'd been stabbed. And me? I just stood there with my good hand still holding half a glass, head tilted, voice calm as if we were discussing the weather. "You good?" I asked. The whole block could hear me. The Johnsons from across the street had come out with their kids, and Dave Henderson leaned against his mailbox like it was free cable. People whispered, laughed under their breath, but nobody stepped forward to help, not yet. I looked at Derek rolling side to side in his $1,000 slacks, Laurel keening like the world ended, neighbours gathering like a choir around a bonfire, and in that moment a thought landed cold in my chest. Was I supposed to save them? After months of lies, credit card bills, perfume clouds and hotel rooms charged to my name, was I really the one expected to play rescuer now? Laurel tried to speak, but her voice broke. She just pointed weakly back at the car, face twisting, and the block leaned forward like they were watching a soap opera hit live TV. "Oh," I said, loud enough for every ear on that street to catch it. "You'll mean the toy?" And just like that, silence slammed down. The block went still. Even the cicadas outside shut up, like the whole world needed a second to let that word sink in. They tried to scuttle toward the front door like I was about to play paramedic, like stepping into our house would somehow shrink the whole disaster down to something private, something fixable. Laurel was already tugging at my arm, makeup running down her face, voice trembling. "Cello, please, let's just talk inside. Always. Oh." I pulled back, shook my head. "Nah, we ain't closing no doors on this. Not today. Truth don't need drywall. It can breathe out here, with the whole block watching." The neighbours were in full attendance now. Miss Petway had moved from her window to her porch, folding chair popped open like it was Sunday theatre. The Johnsons had their arms crossed, kids peeking from behind them wide-eyed. Dave Henderson leaned heavy on his mailbox, shaking his head slow like he'd seen enough marriages end, but never with this much fire. Darren tried to square up his shoulders, straighten that expensive tie, but it was twisted and stained, and he was still sweating bullets. He raised both hands like a preacher calming a congregation. "Martellus, listen, this isn't what it looks like." I laughed right there in his face, couldn't help it. That line was so damn old it had dust on it. "Really? Because it looks like you and my wife been enjoying each other's company in my car using something you both wish you hadn't right now. And it looks like you're doing it on my dime." Laurel snapped her head toward me, eyes flashing even through the pain. "Don't you dare." "Oh, I'll dare," I cut her off. I stepped one boot closer to the edge of the porch, voice low but strong enough for the whole block to catch. "See? Them credit card statements? I ain't blind. The Marriott downtown, every other week, same charge, different excuse. Conference this, seminar that, but the room numbers always matched. Y'all really thought I couldn't read a pattern." That landed. I saw it in Laurel's face. Her pupils shrank like she'd been hit with a flashlight. Derek shifted on his feet, mouth twitching. He opened it anyway. "Business travel," he muttered. "Team strategy sessions. You know how corporate life is?" I snorted. "Yeah, I do. Corporate don't usually come with lingerie bills stuffed in purses, though. Corporate don't usually smell like expensive perfume and ghost pepper regret." The block chuckled, low, mean. Somebody whispered, "Lord, have mercy." Laurel snapped, voice breaking, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Stop humiliating me! We love each other!" And just like that, the street went quiet again. Dead quiet. Even the Johnsons' dog stopped barking. Love. That was the card she decided to throw down in my driveway, in front of neighbours, kids, God, and everybody. I tilted my head, sipped from the glass, still sweating ice in my hand. Love, huh? That's cute. So love means hiding receipts, sneaking into hotel rooms with your boss, bringing back toys that don't belong to us and stashing them in my car. That's y'all's definition? Her lip trembled, but she doubled down. You don't understand, Cello. You never did. Derek, he sees me. He values me. Well, that one stung, not because it was true, but because she wanted it to be. Derek tried to stand taller beside her, still red-faced and pitiful, but nodding like he was proud of that confession. I scanned the crowd, let them see my jaw clench, let them taste the silence stretching long. Then I breathed out slow and spoke plain. All right, here's what's going to happen. Laurel, you got 2 roads in front of you. You can step inside this house, apologize for what you dragged out here in front of all these folks, and maybe, just maybe, we figure if this marriage got anything left worth fixing, or... I pointed down the driveway where Derek stood swaying like a busted lamppost. You can walk off with him right now, see where that love takes you. But you ain't getting both. Not the house, not me, and him on the side. You choose right here in front of everybody. The street held its breath waiting for her answer. That night was the first time in months I actually slept. Not tossing, not staring at the ceiling wondering why she was late. Not pretending the glow from her phone was just harmless notifications. I locked the front door, sat my glass in the sink, and stretched out on the couch with the TV buzzing low, and I swear peace came down on me like a blanket. When I woke up, my phone was lit up like a Christmas tree. 17 missed calls, 43 unread texts, half of them stamped between midnight and 4 a.m, all the same number, Laurel. The first one, Cello, please, pick up, we can explain this. The last one at 4:23 a.m. You humiliated me in front of everybody. I can't believe you'd be so cruel. Cruel. That word had me chuckling into my coffee. Cruel is cheating on your husband with your boss, running up hotel bills on his credit card, coming home with another man's toy in his car. What I did? That was seasoning. That was truth with a little kick. She sent voice messages too. I pressed play just to hear the performance. Her crying, telling me she didn't know how it happened, that Derek manipulated her, that she was the victim. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, she wailed, like betrayal was a 9 to 5 she clocked into. I let it play, shaking my head, then deleted the whole row. By afternoon, the block had turned our driveway into legend. Miss Petway had told the choir. The Hendersons told their cousins. Folks I barely knew honked as they drove past, smiling, giving me that nod like I'd just hit a home run for the neighbourhood. And it didn't stop there. Stories spread faster than hot grease. My buddy at the supply shop told me the guys had nicknamed me Ghost Pepper. Local Facebook groups were buzzing with half-true, half-wild versions, and by evening a neighbour's cousin who worked at Channel 7 left a voicemail asking if I wanted to comment on the incident. I wasn't the fool husband anymore. I was the man who made consequences look creative. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Mr. Tate? The voice was calm, clipped, like it belonged to someone who didn't waste words. This is Patrice Ellison. It took me a second, then it clicked. Derek's wife. The woman who'd been sitting at home while her husband was at the Marriott with mine. I think my husband's been having an affair with your wife, she said flat, like she was confirming a weather report. You think right, I told her. Willards, then Stye. We need to talk. And just like that, I felt the story tilt, like the next chapter had already started writing itself. We agreed on a neutral spot, a coffee shop downtown. Tomorrow, 6 p.m, I hung up, staring at my phone in the dim kitchen light, neighbours' chatter still floating through the night air outside. First time in a long time I felt steady, But steady or not, I knew tomorrow was going to shake things again. The coffee shop smelled like burnt beans and ambition, the kind of place where people in suits pretended they liked each other while planning how to take each other's jobs. I walked in wearing my work shirt with the patch that said Tate HVAC, grease still on my cuffs. Didn't care. Truth wears what it wants. Patrice was already there, tall, composed, tapping her spoon against the edge of her cup in a rhythm that said she was more used to depositions than small talk. She stood when I came over, extended her hand firm like she'd already judged me, and decided I passed. "Mr. Tate," she said, "call me Cello." "Then call me Patrice." We sat. The hiss of the espresso machine filled the silence. Clinks of spoons against porcelain cups. Her eyes never wavered from mine. "I know what happened last night," she began. "Deryn came home smelling like peppers and excuses. He told me it was food poisoning. I told him food poisoning doesn't leave welts. I had to laugh, couldn't help it. She smirked too, quick and sharp, then spread some papers across the table. Neat folders, highlighted notes, the kind of prep only lawyers bring to a coffee shop. "Listen, Cello, what they did wasn't just betrayal. It was policy violation. Your wife is his subordinate. That's automatic grounds for termination in corporate law, hostile work environment, conflict of interest and exposure to lawsuits." She tapped one folder with her polished nail. "Plan A, HR. We already have witnesses. Miss Petway, the Hendersons, your entire neighbourhood. Public indecency, abuse of authority. The story writes itself. I've already contacted HR anonymously. They're requesting meetings. Sunday night, they'll get the calls. Monday morning, Deryn and Laurel walk into their offices and walk back out with cardboard boxes. I leaned back, feeling the weight of what she was laying down. This wasn't revenge, it was surgery. Precise, bloodless, clean. "And plan B?" I asked. Her mouth curved. "Money. They played with your money and mine. Hotel rooms, dinners, gifts, charged on your cards and funded by Derek's salary that should have been going to my household. That's not romance, that's theft. We can document every expense. Every charge is a nail in their professional coffin." I stared at the neat columns of numbers. My overtime hours, my cancelled vacations, my bills stacked in the corner, all to bankroll their little adventure. Patrice leaned forward, lowering her voice. "This isn't about screaming matches or broken plates. It's about consequences. They stole from us, lied to us, humiliated us. So we take back what's ours. Careers, reputations, finances." She sipped her coffee like it was just another Monday. I sat there, heartbeat steady, realizing the drama in my driveway had turned into something else entirely. A case, a trial without a courtroom. Patrice packed her folders with a snap. "So here's how it goes. Sunday, whoa, they get the calls from HR. Monday, they get the security escort out the building. No fights, no yelling, no tears, just policy doing what policy does." I nodded slow, the plan settling into me like cold air filling a hot room. And for the first time since I'd seen that purple thing wedged between the seats, I felt like maybe, just maybe, the game was finally tilting in my favour. Monday morning found me on top of a restaurant roof, kneeling next to a stubborn compressor that hissed like it had secrets of its own. The sun was already burning, sweat soaking my collar, but for once my head wasn't heavy. For the first time in months, I wasn't mad. I wasn't pacing through what-ifs. I felt light, almost free, like all that weight I'd been dragging around finally slipped off my shoulders. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled off one glove, checked the screen. Patrice. "It's done," she said without hello. 9 o'clock on the dot. Derek escorted out by security. Termination letter in his hand. He tried to argue, but HR had witnesses lined up, statements ready. Policy is policy. I wiped grease across my jeans, let the words sink in. Just pictured him, all corporate pride stripped down to a cardboard box with a stapler and a coffee mug. At 10:15, the phone buzzed again. Patrice again, voice almost amused this time. "Your wife, same treatment. They gave her 30 minutes to pack her desk. Violation of company ethics policy, relationship with direct supervisor, conduct unbecoming. They said the ghost pepper incident made it impossible to keep quiet. Too many witnesses." I leaned back on my heels and let the rooftop breeze cool my face. Around me, cars honked down Birdlow. People walked to work like nothing had changed. But I knew everything had. Down on my block, the story had already turned into a badge of honour. Neighbours who used to nod politely now stopped me on the sidewalk, clapped me on the back, said things like, "You handled that, brother, and man, you're a legend." Kids whispered Ghost Pepper, like it was my new superhero name. It was strange, but it didn't puff me up. It just settled me. Made me realise I wasn't crazy for expecting respect. That's when Patrice dropped the next file on the table, at least metaphorically. Now we move to phase 2, financial dossier. I've tracked the charges, hotels, dinners, gifts, every dollar stolen from our households to fund their little affair. That's misconduct, plain and simple. We can use it in divorce court, maybe even criminal fraud if we press. I stared out across the city rooftops, the compressor forgotten for a moment. Did I want that? Was humiliation in the driveway enough? Or was it time to lock this down with paperwork and judges, make sure the consequences weren't just gossip but official? Before I could answer myself, another buzz shook my pocket. This time it wasn't Patrice, it was Laurel, missed call, then another, then a text that popped up, words desperate and raw, "Cello, please. They fired me. I don't have anywhere else to go. Let me come home. We can fix this." I stood there on that rooftop, sun glaring, the city humming beneath me, and felt the choice land hard in my chest. Did I let her back in? Did I let her rewrite the script now that the lights had turned against her? I typed slow, steady. "You want to come home? Then you tell everybody the truth. Every last piece of it. Out loud. No lies, no spin. Until then, the door stays closed." And I slid the phone back in my pocket, the compressor humming steady beside me, like even the machines knew something final had just been set in motion. By the time the sun dropped and the cicadas started buzzing, my kitchen felt like a command center. The phone lay face down on the table, screen lighting up every few minutes, vibrations rolling across the wood. I had music low in the background, some old soul record humming through the static, but it couldn't cover the steady rhythm of calls and texts. Laurel had taken my terms seriously. The first call wasn't her, it was her mother, Mrs. Roberts, sweet voice, usually polite to the point of sugar, but this time clipped, sharp. "Thomas," she said, "only she calls me Thomas, never Cello." Laurel told me everything, about Derek, about what happened in the driveway. I braced myself for anger, maybe a lecture about keeping family business private. But what came instead nearly made me drop the phone. She needs to face this. You did right making her tell the truth. That girl's been spoiled too long. Actions have consequences. All I could do was sit there with the phone pressed to my ear, nodding even though she couldn't see it, whispering, "Yes, Mum." After that came the sister, the voice full of disbelief then resignation. "She embarrassed the whole family," she muttered. "You stood by her all these years, and this is how she repaid you." Then came the friends. One by one, voices I'd only ever heard laughing over wine in my living room, now asking for details like they were reporters. Jessica from the gym, 2 co-workers, even her college roommate. Each call followed the same rhythm, shock, disbelief, then the inevitable question, "Is it true?" And I gave them the short version, never raising my voice, never adding spice. The story didn't need seasoning. The whole time neighbours kept the echo going. Henderson's kids whispered when they rode their bikes past, "That's him, Ghost Pepper." Even at the supply shop, the guys had started calling me legend. It was strange fame, the kind you don't chase but lands in your lap anyway. Around 10, the phone buzzed again. This time it was Laurel herself, voice thick with tears. "Cello, I did it. I called everybody, my mum, my sister, all my friends. They all know, they all think I'm an idiot. Even Jessica said what I did was unforgivable." I let the silence stretch a beat before answering. "That's the price. You wanted to come home? You tell the truth. That's how it works." "I've lost everything," she sobbed. "My job, my reputation, my family's respect. Please just let me sleep in my own bed tonight." I looked around my quiet kitchen, the ice clinking in my glass, the music spinning soft in the background. For the first time in years, my house felt like mine. "Tomorrow," I said flat, steady, after the full truth. "Tonight, you stay where you are." Her breath hitched, sharp like glass breaking. "Tomorrow," I repeated, then ended the call, and the kitchen went still again, leaving just the faint scratch of the record needle, and the feeling that, for once, I was the one setting the terms. She came by the next evening, hair flat, eyes swollen, clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in the back seat of her car. I let her in, but not past the living room. We sat across from each other, the same couch where we'd spent 12 years watching TV, sharing takeout, arguing about bills. Now it felt like a courtroom with no judge but me. I didn't waste time. You keep calling this cruel, Laurel. You keep acting like I woke up one day and chose to hurt you. But let's lay out the real bill since I'm the one paying it. She dropped her gaze, but I kept going. You used our money for your fun. Hotels, dinners, lingerie. You told lies to my face for months, made me the fool on my own street, and you carried yourself like I was beneath you, like the man paying the bills wasn't good enough to even say your name right. She flinched at that, then leaned forward, hands clasped like prayer. Cello, I know I messed up, I know I hurt you, but I love you, I can fix this. I'll go to therapy, I'll change, I'll do whatever you want. Her voice cracked, and the tears came on schedule, like she'd rehearsed the role, the same performance she probably gave Derek when she wanted him to buy her something. I shook my head slow. Love isn't receipts hidden in purses. Love isn't telling your boss I'm boring while you sneak around. Love isn't dragging me through the mud while I'm working overtime to cover your cards. That ain't love, Laurel. That's betrayal. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. You need to move out. Find your own apartment. Build your own life without me carrying you. We're not pretending none of this happened just because you cried in the right places. You made choices. Now you live with them. Her face hardened, anger fighting through the tears. You planned this. The hot sauce making me call everybody, humiliating me in front of the whole block. You planned my downfall. I stood, walked to the door and held it open. My voice came out low, steady, final. No, I didn't plan your humiliation. I planned consequences. You gave me the material, Laurel. I just stopped covering it up. The hallway light cut across her face as she walked past me, shoulders trembling. The door shut behind her with a sound that felt more like closure than anger, and the silence that followed was the cleanest thing I'd heard in years. The restaurant's backlot was half gravel, half weeds pushing through cracked asphalt. I'd just finished swapping out a condenser unit, sweat soaking the back of my shirt, when I heard footsteps crunching toward me. Heavy, uneven, too fast, Darren. He looked stripped down, no pressed suit, no cufflinks, no polished shoes, just jeans, a wrinkled t-shirt, face hollowed out, eyes wild, the kind of man who'd lost his armor and didn't know what to do without it. Cello, we need to talk, he rasped, chest heaving. I kept my wrench in my hand, not like a weapon, but like a reminder of where I belonged, and fixing, not fighting. Ain't nothing to talk about, Derek. You already made your choices. He stepped closer, gravel popping under his sneakers. You destroyed my career, my marriage, everything. You think you won, but you didn't. You just ruined both our lives. I stayed calm, eyes steady. No, you ruined yours. I just stopped cleaning up your mess. That broke something in him. He lunged, swung wild, fist glancing my shoulder and slamming into the brick wall behind me. The thud echoed, followed by his grunt of pain. He tried again, grabbing at my shirt, but he was sloppy, off balance. I twisted, shoved him off, felt his body hit gravel with a crunch. Darren, stop! I barked. My voice wasn't bravado. It was a line in the sand. This ain't gonna fix nothing. But he wasn't listening. Blood streamed from his knuckles where the brick tore him open. He staggered up, chest heaving, spit flying. I hate you. You hear me? I hate you. You and Patrice. You'll plan this. You set me up. Before I could answer, the restaurant manager burst out the back door. Hey, break it up. Police are on the way. Blue lights flickered 10 minutes later. Statements collected. My hand steady the whole time. And when they cuffed Darren, I saw the fear finally replace his fury. Patrice already had a restraining order filed, and his little stunt today violated it. Assault charge plus contempt. He was headed straight to a holding cell. That night, Patrice called. They booked him, she said, voice cool. He's telling anyone who'll listen that we conspired, that you and I planned this from the start. He's calling it revenge. I leaned back in my chair. The quiet of my house wrapping around me. Revenge? No. He got it twisted. A pause. So what do we call it? She asked. I let the silence stretch, then said, justice. And if he wants to prove otherwise, let him try. It came on a Thursday evening, the last call I ever meant to take from her. Laurel's name flashed across the screen, and for a moment my thumb hovered, like habit still had its hooks in me. Then I sighed, pressed accept, and waited. Her voice was so thin, worn out, like paper rubbed too many times. "Cello, I just wanted to say I'm sorry again. For all of it. I'm in therapy now, I'm trying. I don't want us to end like this." I let her words sit. In the quiet, I could hear traffic outside, the soft hum of the fridge, my own steady breath. Finally, I said, calm as a stone, "Laurel, don't call me again unless it's an emergency." The silence on the other end stretched long, then came the sound of her swallowing hard. She whispered, "Okay," and the line went dead. Just like that, 12 years of marriage flattened into static. And yet, when I set the phone down, I didn't feel broken. My lungs felt clear, like I was breathing right for the first time in months. Life moved on around me, but not the same way. At job sites, customers shook my hand longer than usual, called me sir with a tone that carried weight. Neighbours nodded with a respect I hadn't felt before. Not pity, not gossip, but something closer to admiration. Folks weren't laughing at the guy who got played anymore. They were tipping their heads at the man who handled betrayal without swinging fists, who turned a driveway disaster into a parable. Even the kids down the block whispered it like a superhero alias. Ghost Pepper Legend. At first it sounded silly, but then I realised what it meant. I'd shown them another way, consequences without chaos. Patrice kept me updated. She was a machine, precise, relentless. "Darren's on his knees," she said one afternoon, papers shuffling behind her voice. "The court's recognising the financial misconduct. His assets are frozen. The accounts he drained are being traced back. I'm taking everything he thought was untouchable. He won't recover from this one." Her calm certainty was a reminder. She was wielding the law the way I wielded a wrench, efficient, with no wasted motion. Watching her work showed me what justice looked like when you refused to be loud but refused to bend. Then one ordinary afternoon, fate walked me into Jessica. She was one of Laurel's old gym friends, a face I'd seen laughing over wine at our dining table, now standing in line ahead of me at the hardware store. She turned, did a double take, and smiled. "Cello," she said, "I heard everything. You know you've become kind of a symbol, right?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "A symbol of what, bad marriages?" She grinned. "No. A symbol of what happens when somebody handles betrayal without violence. You showed everybody that consequences don't always have to be fists or screaming. You made your point and kept your dignity. People talk about that." Her words landed harder than I expected. All this time I'd thought I was just reacting, surviving. But maybe I'd become more than that. Maybe I was proof that even ordinary men could draw a line and make it stand. We talked a little more, easy like neighbours. She tilted her head at me finally, eyes playful. "You know, my sister's single, recently divorced actually. She's got a good head on her shoulders and a sharp sense of humour. I think you two might hit it off." I opened my mouth to deflect, to shut the door the way I had on every thought of a future without bitterness. But instead, for the first time since the Ghost Pepper night, I didn't. I just let the possibility hang there, like fresh air filling to my chest. "Maybe," I said, and I realised I meant it. Evening draped the house soft, like a quilt finally pulled over a restless sleeper. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like accusation. It felt like peace. I set myself down in the recliner, remote in one hand, cold bottle in the other. The TV flicked to life with that little click, filling the room with low light. Nothing urgent, nothing noisy, just background hum to keep the night company. I twisted the cap off my beer and listened to the hiss. Simple sound, but it carried more weight than all the screaming and begging I'd heard in that driveway weeks back. That hiss was mine. My house. My rules. No lies in the walls anymore. I leaned back, took a slow sip, and let myself think. Folks talk about revenge like it's a crown, like the goal is to salt the wound, rub in the pain, watch somebody crumble and call that victory. But sitting there in my chair, TV glow dancing across my walls, I realised the best revenge ain't about burning down the person who wronged you. It's about building a life they can't touch anymore. A life where nobody's lying through perfume clouds, where you don't wake up wondering what's true. I raised the bottle in a little toast, whispering into the quiet, "Here's to consequences, and here's to respecting ordinary life." My eyes caught the kitchen shelf where that small glass bottle of ghost pepper oil still sat. Not a weapon anymore. Just a reminder. A story in a jar. Proof that even a quiet man can draw lines and make them stick. Proof that sometimes you don't need fists or fire, just patience and the right kind of seasoning. I smiled, shook my head. I hadn't won. Winning would have meant getting her back, proving Derek wrong, holding up some trophy no one cared about. No, I hadn't won. I'd healed. That was the difference. I'd taken betrayal, humiliation and silence and turned them into something whole again. Myself. The night stretched easy, and I thought maybe this was it. Maybe the story had closed. But then came the knock. 3 taps on the front door, steady, deliberate. Not desperate like Laurel's late-night begging. Not angry like Derek's gravel-choked threats. Different. Someone standing on the other side with something real to say. I set the bottle down, stood, and walked toward the door. My hand hovered on the knob, breath deep in my chest.